Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, October 9th, 2020. Employee or contractor? A problem created by the income tax. For hundreds of years, people have provided services to companies as contractors rather than as employees. Now, companies generally like this arrangement as it's often a less expensive option for them. According to Joseph Hadzima, a senior lecturer at the MIT School of Management, once you consider basic salary, taxes, and benefits, an employee's real cost is typically between 1.25 and 1.4 times the employee's base salary. In other words, an employee earning a $30,000 salary will cost a company somewhere between $37,500 and $42,000. And it's not just companies that find contracting an attractive option. Many people prefer to be contractors rather than employees, something that baffles many government bureaucrats. Now let's look at some of the things about a contractor. A contractor has a more flexible work schedule than an employee. A contractor can deduct the cost of doing business, which normally includes cell phones, internet, and all or part of vehicle expenses. A contractor is paid based on his ability, has no limit on the amount of income they can make, has no boss, and is ideally situated to benefit from the rapidly growing gig economy. So, just what is this gig economy? An article in Investopedia describes the rapidly growing gig economy. It states, in a gig economy, temporary, flexible jobs are commonplace, and companies tend toward hiring independent contractors and freelancers instead of full-time employees. America is well on its way to establishing a gig economy, and estimates show that as much as a third of the working population is already in some gig capacity. Experts expect this number to rise as these types of positions lend themselves to independent contracting work. And many of these jobs don't require the contractor to come into the office to work. The gig economy is based on flexible, temporary, or freelance jobs, often involving connecting with clients or customers through an online platform. And finally, the gig economy can benefit workers, businesses, and consumers by making work more adaptable to the needs of the moment and to the demand for flexible lifestyles. Now, many state and federal government bureaucrats are wary of contractors. They say they are concerned that the workers are not getting the benefits to which they are entitled. Well, from their point of view, that's somewhat understandable because they just can't really comprehend how someone would not want a stable job that provides the benefits and security available to employees. But what they're really concerned about is the rapidly growing evasion of state and federal income taxes and the resulting loss of revenue. Now, with one exception, Vermont, every state has a balanced budget requirement. They just can't go deeper and deeper into debt the way the federal government can. States must actually raise the revenue they need to fund their budgets. Now, government bureaucrats love tax withholding. They see it as a way to make evasion harder, and also, when people's withholding exceeds their tax liability, the government gets an interest-free loan courtesy of the taxpayers. Now, contractors receive payments for their services and are generally not subject to withholding. After deducting their business expenses, contractors pay income tax on their net profits. Now, contractors, like all rational people, try to minimize their tax liability. They want to keep as much of what they earn as possible. Now, some contractors are more aggressive than others in taking deductions. Now, that's not necessarily illegal, although IRS auditors might not agree with all of them. Still, there are some contractors who do illegally evade taxes by not reporting income or exaggerating deductions. Now, the bureaucratic answer to all that is not to focus just on the guilty parties, but to declare open season on all contractors. This response is what led to the turmoil in California involving Uber, Lyft, and countless other companies that hire contractors. Apparently, some of these contractors were not paying the income taxes the bureaucrats thought they should be. Consequently, California passed a new law making it extremely difficult for any company to hire people as contractors. The law provides for heavy fines and penalties on any company that mistakenly classifies an employee as a contractor. Now, the government bureaucrats just assumed that everyone would immediately change their business models to comply with their orders. Few, if any, had actually worked in the business world since they were babysitting or mowing lawns as a teenager, and therefore they were totally baffled by the response they got. With the incredible arrogance of people who think they know best what they really don't, they were outraged that employers and contractors didn't just obediently fall in line. Now, private companies live in the real world, not the hypothetical world of the government bureaucrats. The bureaucrats never saw the unintended consequences of their new law coming. Many companies that were forced to hire their previous contractors as employees ended up cutting benefits for all employees. They simply couldn't pay all the extra costs and survive, something the bureaucrats never considered. Others are just contracting their business operations because they cannot afford to hire any more employees. The reaction from the government bureaucrats? They label these actions as corporate greed and look for new ways to punish these companies. In conclusion, with the FAIRtax, the distinction between employee and contractor is irrelevant, at least for tax collection purposes. Neither would be subject to withholding, neither would be subject to payroll taxes, both would bring home their full gross amount, and both would get their monthly prebate. Now remember, with the FAIRtax, everyone pays their federal taxes at the cash register when they make retail purchases of new goods and services. Now, isn't it better if people, not bureaucrats, decide what's best for them? Now, many government bureaucrats won't like the FAIRtax. They found that the income payroll tax system is a powerful tool they can use to manipulate people, and the FAIRtax would take that away from them. British writer C.S. Lewis said something that all of us should consider, quoting, "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under the omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, his cupidity may at some point be satiated, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience." End of quote. Now, will passing the FAIRtax suddenly allow people to make their own decisions in matters that don't adversely affect others? Well, no, but it will remove a tool that government busybodies use to control and manipulate each and every one of us. And it will give each of us the freedom to decide when we pay our taxes and how much in taxes we pay. So, if you have friends who don't know about the FAIRtax, send them to FAIRtax.org. Have them watch the whiteboards under how it works, and if they agree, please ask them to join us. Then, contact your members of Congress and the President and demand that Congress pass the FAIRtax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.